A driver races an entire month of NASCAR with a broken bone in his hand, and nobody outside the garage even knew how bad it was. Now, with the playoffs closing in, that cast is finally coming off. And the timing could not be more dangerous or more perfect. This is the story of how Christopher Bell turned a shattered wrist into one of the gutsiest playoff pushes in the Cup Series this season. Christopher Bell fractured his left wrist in a brutal wreck with Chase Elliott at Michigan back on June 7th. He didn't sit out, he didn't shut it down. He strapped into a race car the very next weekend at Pocono, wrist in a cast, and tried to compete anyway. It didn't go well. He struggled through practice, qualifying, and the race itself. So Joe Gibbs Racing made a call, skip the San Diego street race, buy some healing time, live to fight another week. That decision paid off immediately. Bell came back at Sonoma and finished 5th. Then Chicagoland, and he ran 2nd. Now, heading into Iowa Speedway, Bell expects to race without the cast for the first time since the injury happened. Here's why this isn't just an injury update. It's a playoff survival story. The NASCAR postseason field locks in soon. Every single point between now and then either builds a cushion or costs a driver his spot entirely. There's zero room for a slow week. Bell wasn't dealing with a bruise or a tweak. A fractured wrist changes everything about how a driver controls a 900-pound steering wheel through corners at speeds most of us will never experience. Grit, feedback, fine motor control, all of it gets compromised, and he didn't get the luxury of a clean recovery window. He was forced to manage a serious injury in real time, mid-championship hunt, with Joe Gibbs Racing's entire playoff strategy hanging in the balance. The choice to sit out San Diego wasn't weakness. It was a calculated risk, trading one race's worth of points for a healthier back half of the stretch run. It could have easily backfired. Instead, it set up back-to-back statement finishes. Let's break down what's actually happening here strategically, because this is bigger than one driver toughing it out. First, the Pocono result tells you everything about how much a hand injury really costs a Cup Series driver. Bell wasn't slow because his equipment was bad. He was slow because he physically could not extract full performance from the car. That's a massive tell. Is sport decided by hundredths of a second? A compromised grip is the difference between a top 5 and a mid-pack finish. Second, the decision to skip San Diego was, frankly, the smartest move Joe Gibbs Racing made all summer. Teams love to talk about not missing races, but championship math doesn't reward stubbornness. It rewards results. Sacrificing one race to protect 2, 3, 4 races down the stretch is exactly the kind of long view thinking that separates organizations built for a title run from organizations just trying to survive the season. Third, and this is the real story, Bell's return wasn't just good. A 5th at Sonoma followed by a runner-up at Chicagoland while still injured is borderline elite. That's not a driver limping to the finish line. That's a driver operating near peak level with one hand compromised. Take the cast off entirely, and there's a real argument Bell becomes one of the most dangerous cars on the grid heading into the postseason. Now, the risk, racing without the cast for the first time at Iowa, is not automatically a positive. There's an adjustment period anytime a driver changes how his hand interacts with the wheel. Even if it's removing a restriction rather than adding one, confidence and comfort don't always show up instantly. If the wrist isn't fully healed underneath, removing the cast too early could actually expose it to more strain, not less, so this is a genuine gamble. High reward if it works, real risk if it doesn't. Expect two very different reactions splitting the NASCAR world right now. One side of the fan base is going to call this pure grit, a driver who refused to let a broken bone derail a playoff run, and who somehow got better results while hurt than a lot of drivers get healthy. The other side is going to raise the safety question. Should a driver with a confirmed fracture have been racing at competitive speeds at all? Was Joe Gibbs Racing pushing him too hard, too fast for the sake of points? Media coverage will likely lean into the underdog angle. The race through pain narrative always draws attention. But don't be surprised if a few analysts push back and ask harder questions about how NASCAR handles in-season injury clearance. Best case, the wrist is fully healed, the cast comes off clean, and Bell rolls into Iowa with total control back in his hands. He builds on the Sonoma and Chicagoland momentum, locks in a comfortable playoff position, and enters the postseason as a legitimate title threat instead of a compromised one. Worst case, the wrist isn't as ready as the team hopes. Removing the cast too soon leads to lingering pain or reduced grip strength under race conditions. Performance dips right when he needs it most. And Bell finds himself fighting to simply make the playoff field instead of racing to contend once he's in it. So here's the real question. Was skipping San Diego and racing hurt through Pocono a brilliant playoff strategy or a warning sign that got lucky? Drop your take in the comments. grit, or gamble. If you want more no-fluff NASCAR breakdowns before every playoff race, make sure you're subscribed, because this postseason is about to get chaotic.